Now available in paperback and e-readers, ISIS Legacy. The sorority secrets of the goddess next door are revealed in this all-new ISIS series adventure. Get ISIS Legacy in paperback and e-readers at online booksellers everywhere. In the aftermath of the terrorist attack at the Tops supermarket, where 10 people wound up losing their lives in a mass shooting, the alleged murderer, Peyton S. Gedrin, claims that his motive for murder was replacement theory that he heard on the internet. Now, this replacement theory is one where your white supremacists fear that they will not be the dominant race here in America, and they won't be able to control the country because they won't be the majority population. Now, this replacement theory is all over the internet, and it is also spoken on by pundits on places like Fox News, like Tucker Carlson. However, I remember reading about these kinds of ideas far back as 1994 in my organizational behavior class. Now, in the book I read from my organizational behavior class, it stated that in the future, the whole population of America would not be predominantly white. And according to census projections, they believe that America's population might not be possibly white by the end of about 2050. Now, these statistical projections are the main reason why these white supremacists are triggered, because these white supremacists fear that they may possibly be replaced as the dominant race. However, this whole theory that they have is one that can easily be debunked, and it can be debunked because these white racists, they're sitting here thinking that people are so-called importing people to replace them. However, the roots of their population decline are not rooted in any sort of population replacement. No, the roots of the white population declining started all the way back in the late 1960s with the rise of the feminist movement. When we saw the rise of the white feminist movement, we saw the white female going out here demanding to be an equal to the man. And when she decided to be an equal to the man, she wanted to have a job like a man, she wanted to have a career like a man, and she thought she did not need to have a family at all. And if the white woman is out here having a career and making money, then she does not have time to go out here and work at building a family. So if she's on the job at making her career first, she is not interested in creating a family, and that is one of the reasons why the white population started to go into decline. That is something that your Tucker Carlson won't talk about, and he won't talk about it because that does not fit his narrative, and it doesn't give your white supremacist a scapegoat to go out here and polarize and have as the people to blame. So your Tucker Carlson and those who push this narrative, they are looking for a black person or a minority person to blame for the decline of the white population. However, the decline of the white population is rooted in white feminism, and it is rooted in your white men giving economic power to the white female. And because the white male gave the white female their economic power and empowered them, this is what led to the decline of the birth rates of white Americans, and it led to the decline of the white population. Now, your white supremacist, he fears genetic annihilation from other races. Unfortunately, the white supremacist never took a critical examination of the decline of his own race from his own decisions, because the white supremacist never wants to take responsibility for his own actions, and that's why he doesn't want to take that look at himself and the major tactical mistakes he made as related to his own genetic annihilation. The white supremacist was so afraid of genetic annihilation by blacks, but he couldn't see how his white woman was the one who practically led to his birth rates declining all across the country. Now, your white supremacists who go out here and promote this whole theory as related to so-called replacement, again, they don't want to talk about how whites are not having children. No, they want to go out here and blame other races. And then they want to also talk about the whole idea of people being brought into the country to so-called replace white people. Now, this mass shooter who shot up the top supermarket said this was his motive for killing black people, but black people were not the ones who were out here trying to replace your so-called whites. No, if this young little twerp had did his research like I did back in 1994, he would understand that black people have always been here since the inception of the country, and we were brought here against our will. So how are people who are already here going to replace you? That's a critical question I want to ask all of those who talk about this replacement theory. How is it people who are already here going to replace you when they're already here? Now, what they really fear is black people becoming a dominant economic base, because they fear they would lose economic power. That's the answer I have for that question of so-called replacement. They fear that blacks would have economic and political power, and white supremacy would not be dominant anymore. So that's what they think about so-called replacement. But again, if you've studied history, we always knew that black people controlled their own economy and had their own towns, and they were having economic power, and they were building a nation within a nation before these terrorists came in and destroyed towns like Rosewood and Black Wall Street, and black populations like those in Buffalo were doing extremely well. And that's what many of these white supremacists fear. They fear black economic empowerment, and they fear an entire community of black people that control an entire economy. That's what the racists fear, but they'll sit there and say, oh, we're being replaced, and they also will start pointing out, oh, we are being replaced, and people are being brought in to replace us. Now, this is another talking point guys like Tucker Carlson like to bring up, that, oh, people are being trucked in to go out here and replace white people. However, black people do not have the economic or political power to bring people from one country or across the border. We do not have the political representation to do this, nor do we have the economic resources to go out here and do such a thing. However, your people who talk this theory want us to believe that black people are the ones doing this, but they don't want to go out here and look at these corporations and these politicians, most of whom are what? White, and they don't want to confront those white politicians and white corporate business owners about how they are creating policy that is importing people here to work in things like H-1B visas, or to go out here and receive benefits from the government. They don't want to talk about the people who are in charge, who are white. No, they want to sit here and try to make everything racial, because what they're looking for is a scapegoat to blame for their station in life. And the real big reason why many of these people who talk about this replacement theory are upset is because they don't have the white privilege that they had in the past. And what they want to do is have that privilege where they can be what they call white, living the white lifestyle, having these extra rights, and being able to be the first class citizen in the country, while minorities and black people are second class citizens. That's what they're upset about, and that's why they feel they are so called being replaced, because they are being put on a place where they are on the same level as blacks, put on the same level as so-called minorities, and everything is being leveled out where everything is going to be equal. And that is the thing that has these white supremacists upset, that they cannot be the supreme race in the country, and they cannot receive the extra benefits, giveaways, and give goodies that your white males and white females gain in American society. They are upset that they are not going to be elevated to that high position. Unfortunately, they don't want to go out here and take accountability for their actions leading to them being in that position, because most of your white racists, they don't want to take a real critical look at American history and take a look at the people who put them in this predicament. And they don't want to take a look at the people who put them in this predicament, because those people are white. It was the baby boomer white feminists who went out here and led to the lower birth rates, because she wanted a career, and it was the rich white men who gave the white feminists those jobs, because they wanted to get 2 paychecks, and they wanted to be able to get consumers to buy products in their economy. I go in depth on all of these subjects in my book, The Woman Crisis, and these people, they're sitting there talking about replacement theory. No, what's happening is that your white supremacy is eating itself, and it's eating itself because these greedy white supremacists wanted to have all the resources for a small group, and they're willing to sacrifice the large population. And again, they're not replacing anyone, they're just giving themselves more of those resources, and they are no longer concerning themselves with having people being so-called white and giving white privilege to lower middle classes. That's what this is all about. But your Tucker Carlson and those who talk about this replacement theory, they're not going to sit there and talk about all the subtle nuances of what's going on here in America, because they don't really want you to know the facts as related to their narratives. Because once you have studied all of this, like I did back in 1994 in my organizational behavior class, you'll understand that there is no so-called replacement of white people. No, it was just basic white greed that led to the current state that many of these racists are in. These racists no longer have their white privilege, where they can live their lifestyle and get big jobs by just being white. They are no longer able to have big houses and live very well. And this is what upsets them, because they want to be a part of white supremacy. They want to be on top. They want to have more privileges than anyone else. And they want to have a population that dominates societies. Unfortunately, they were the ones who led to the decline in their own population. They were the ones who led to their economic situation being where it is. They were the ones who did this back from the 40s to the 60s with their plans to bring the woman into the workforce and have the woman working. They are the ones who led to their low birth rates. They are the ones who led to their decline in population. All of this is directly connected to the white supremacist, but the white supremacist, whenever he screws up, what he wants to do is blame black people and blame other minorities and say they were the ones who are causing us to be in the place that we're in, but it isn't black people or minorities. No, this was a self-inflicted wound on your white people. They did this to themselves. They were the ones who went out here and gave their jobs to women instead of giving black people their equal opportunity. Black men, had they gotten many of the jobs they gave white women, they would have been in a better economic position, and your white population would actually be growing right now, because your white population, the women, would be married and having children instead of going out here working at jobs that they're dissatisfied at and going out here and not having the children that are supposed to be the replacement white population. If your white supremacists want to get mad at somebody about their so-called replacement issues, they need to take a look at the mirror at themselves, because it's their own racism that led to them having a declining population. Unfortunately, many of your white supremacists never want to take that look in the mirror, because taking that look in the mirror means you have to take responsibility for yourself, and the white supremacist never wants to take responsibility for themselves, because they're used to getting everything from someone else, and they're not ever interested in taking responsibility for anything, including their own decline of their own society. Now, if you want to see me make more videos like this, you can donate to my Patreon, my PayPal, or my Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. Now, I'll be talking more in depth about this whole subject in my upcoming book, The Woman Crisis, but I wanted to give a quick refutation of this ridiculous narrative as related to so-called replacement population, because the whole thing is nobody's replacing anyone. If you don't go out here and have children and you don't plan for families, you're not going to have any families to pass your legacy on to. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.
Now available in paperback and e-readers, E-Steam Horror of a Hyena Woman. Hell's Aspiring Angel takes on a wicked werewolf in this action-packed all-new E-Steam series adventure. Get E-Steam Horror of a Hyena Woman in paperback and e-readers today.